Next podcast with Chris and Todd.
Hey, we're excited. I think we're excited.
We are.
Okay, we're excited. Yeah, I just had to get affirmation from Todd.
Yes.
Well, Todd's always excited. That's why Tina loves him. It's just the best of both worlds. Tina's excited. Todd's excited.
Yeah,
they have excited
that
kids.
Is exactly it.
And they just make me tired. Anyway, but I never see them as much as I'd like to.
Well, you can come to East anytime you want.
I'll talk to my boss about that. I think he would probably frown upon me leaving West to go hang out at East.
This is true.
And West is really awesome.
Okay.
So whatever.
Did you just flash a?
I did my West.
He's got gang
sign.
signs for West.
I've been doing the Wesleyan W for a while, but it just translated to West so nice. So anyway, we are here with two of our favorite people.
This is true.
And
Awesome. Will you
don't
put
know
that in
many
writing?
we don't know that many people. So you are right now two of our favorites.
I'd like that in writing.
Yes.
He likes giving you a compliment and then humbling you
Yes.
all in the same
Yes.
sentence.
I just like keeping it level.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I have a hard time with balance.
Yes.
So anyway, with all that being said, do you want to introduce yourselves? Or
Please do.
We
We got the outreach team.
That's right. The outreach team.
The outreach team.
Kelly and Katy.
Kelly, start.
Well, hello.
Do you know what? I'm getting a ton of stuff, so I was like, maybe
know.
it's the same
I
people
know.
needing us.
Well, that sounds like the outreach team.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
We're being reached.
But what are your guys' roles? What do you guys do on the team?
I am, I guess, the outreach coordinator.
Cool.
So, yeah, I do a lot of coordinating of the volunteers and partnering up with our nonprofits and projects we do.
Nice.
So this is going to sound funny, but my title has changed so many times in the last 15 years that I'm not entirely sure what it is. But I am part of the outreach team.
Director?
Yeah.
I'm the outreach director.
There you go.
We've
Yes.
changed it multiple times.
Yes. I think that's where it's landed.
I think that is where it landed. Look at that
I think we're
plane.
going.
There it went. Right down. All right. So I work with Kelly.
Yes.
It's really fun. And do a lot of directing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
There you go. I love how you took your... I'm on the outreach team and I direct, so I am the outreach director. Well done. Nice.
Nice and simple. That's
Yes.
what we like.
She takes care of it.
I try to be really succinct, you guys.
Nailed it then.
In everything.
But we wanted to have you guys on because I think it's important for our church and in this podcast, just giving people next steps. We do a lot of things locally. We do a lot of things globally.
Yes.
And we wanted to bring you guys on to share some of that, but also kind of share with us like the importance, the why, even for you guys, because your job centers around this of like, why do we serve? Why do we have compassion for people? So as you guys have done the work that you've done, what is the why behind it? Why are we going after this as a church?
So there are gobs of reasons, but we want to reflect Jesus. We want to show people who Jesus is. And that happens inside the church a lot, the growing and the deepening and the connecting in the community. I think one of the coolest things about learning is the application of what you're learning. And so for us, I think outreach is that we're growing, we're connecting, we're serving inside, and then we turn and we walk that out into the world. Yeah. And over again in Scripture, we're instructed to not just know the word, but to go do what it says. Yes. And so I think ours is, the mental picture I get is putting feet to the faith that you have, because we have a responsibility and a privilege, I think, to be part of a church community and invested in a church community and being discipled and discipling. That's all of that application, but then going and bringing it to the world. Yeah.
And I think it's important to have people like us, a team, to show the people in our community and our church what options are available and to really change their lens of what their community is.
Yes.
So many people do want to walk out their faith, but they don't know how or where. So
Yeah, I think that's really important. And one of the things that it's just been kind of, I think that's kind of misconstrued over the course of the years when it comes to helping and things like that. Something that's been kind of resonating in my mind lately is everybody like looks at a problem and says, "Oh, how come you're not doing anything? And why aren't you doing something?" And it's easy to get those lenses, right? Of like, well, obviously nothing's getting done, but ultimately you're one person, right? So if you as a team have one or two individuals and the people that are part of that, and we're all able to engage one or two people, that adds up pretty quick.
Absolutely.
And I think that's always good to keep that perspective in mind as we begin that process of serving. You're like, because we've all been in kind of that similar circle where people come for the first time to serve and they're like, I'm ready to serve. And you're like, I don't feel like it made a difference. Yeah, but you made a difference to one person today. And that, I think to me, that feels like a good launch point of just reminding people, like, you may not feel like you're making a difference, but you are. And because you can easily get overwhelmed with like the enormity of all the things that are taking place. So I think but I also think it's key to have somebody that helps launch people into that conversation, which is where you two come in.
Sure.
I think so vitally for our church to be able to look at someone and say, hey, I can tell you're new here. There's
so many different levels to it.
Yeah.
Especially, I move around a lot, being a military spouse, and so I think when people think of serving, they, when you go to a community, you think of homeless shelter, maybe food distribution, and the Humane Society.
And those are all great things.
Those are, but there's so much more and so many more different levels of serving, and so I think making our congregation aware of those is important
for
too.
sure. And trying to match one of the things that we do is have on-ramps. So easy on-ramps where just step in somewhere and then letting people kind of discover what even is going on in the community and where are the needs. And that's our opportunity and responsibility to work through. But then also where are some lanes that not everybody should be doing the same thing, because if we all were focused on one initiative or issue, everything else would be dropped. And so helping people learn about what's going on and have opportunities to connect, but then also figure out what's a good fit for me, the season of life I'm in, the gifts that the Lord has given me, and helping them to navigate that. Because some of the greatest joys is getting to essentially send volunteers that were maybe leaders with us out into an organization that they say, I'm going to be your host when you come here now. I'm not going to go with you anymore. Yeah. I found my place. And so that's been a really fun
Definitely.
Like fledglings leaving the nest.
Yeah.
Did you have, I had a question, like, because you talked about organizations and finding organizations, like, and maybe some people know, but maybe for the first time they're checking it out. Like, how did you've been here, 15 years now, which is crazy, because I left when you came, which worked out perfectly. I wasn't at Fountain Springs, but
Christian sort out. You take that back.
Yes, because now you're together. So
I didn't even know you, and I was sad about it.
Crazy.
And now I'm not sad about it.
They came, and then you came, but I got to hang out with you, which is great. So now I didn't know it would be great to hang out with Katy and David. I didn't know how awesome it would be. So, and now Kelly's here, and it just it's fun times.
Cherry on the top.
That's right. She's the best. So, question for you as we make noise in the studio, just that idea of like, how do you begin deciphering where to start? And because you guys, we as a church have that story of where we started, how we came to where we were, and saying, okay, we're in this community. What are the needs? Where are the needs? And what can we tangibly do, and what do we want to be a part of?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about maybe the overarching, and then Kelly is an expert on several of the places that we've landed. But 15 years ago, we moved here, and the church was just in a different place. And there was a lot of hurt, a lot of new believers, a lot of people that wanted to do good stuff, but were looking past the community and to global initiatives, not because they didn't care about the community, but I think it was just a season where there wasn't a lot of understanding of where to go. And so David actually started meeting with the mayor, the Red Cross director, who was also new at that time. They were coming in at the same time. And so just hearing from them, and discovered that there were mission trips coming to our community to serve. People from all over the world, literally, coming here to serve. And so we thought, we know that the Lord has called us to the ends of the earth, but we've got to start here. And until we start here, we should not be going anywhere else. And so from that moment, really looking into the community and meeting with stakeholders in the community to say, what are the needs? Where are the places that need help, financially, volunteer-wise? And as a church who wants to be committed to showing people who Jesus is, what can we do about it? So really defining, there are community reports that come out every year with some of the stakeholders. It used to be Chamber of Commerce, now it's Elevate, but United Way, and some of those places that assess where the needs are. So we as a church have identified, I would say, kind of an umbrella of basic needs: shelter, food, and transportation. So those have been three locked throw the key out, we'll likely never stop walking down those paths. And not just supporting people with tangible needs, but we have a partner in town that calls it transformational, not transactional. And our heart is to not just provide for their need, but point them to the provider. And so just walking with them and helping to push things forward in a good way. But then also, I think we have a responsibility to get to the root cause of not just going, okay, we're gonna do meals at Cornerstone and feed people who are without homes, but we also need to figure out what's the long-term goal here, and how do we get people to where we know the Lord has amazing things for them. How do we help them get the holistic, comprehensive care and growth that we know that they crave? So the other one, though, is Safe and Healthy Kids. And I think you should speak to that.
I should, huh?
I would love for you to.
What a
If you
setup.
could do that, that'd be great.
Okay. So as a church, we do have a ministry called just Safe and Healthy Kids. And this is really focusing on our foster care system here really around the nation. Foster care is a need, but this area in particular in Pennington County, it's exponentially different than the rest of the state in South Dakota. There's just, it's almost like a 4-to-1 ratio of how many kids are in need to how many families that are providing. And even the families that are providing, some of them are getting, 6, 7, 8 kids at a time, just because there is no room. So Katy has done a really good job of kind of how she explained investigating and having conversations with people in the community to see really where is the need, where is that window that we can kind of fill, that gap, if you would say. So we run the Foster Supply Closet that's housed in Love Inc. And this is just where we provide some clothing, some basic necessities, a couple of outfits, some pajamas, socks, underwear for those kids who are getting the initial placements. We also, as a congregation, tried to have kind of a wraparound care. So we are taking care of the foster families and their needs, and just letting them know that we see them and that we support them. There's studies that show that within a year, the foster family will quit doing what they're doing just because it is so taxing. But if they know they have a support system of some sort, people they can rely on, they are more likely to continue helping. And so they're already in the trenches. They're already sacrificing. So we want to come around and help them. So we do that with prayer and meals and just get-togethers. Again, our foster closet, just a lot of community activities.
I think that what you said, that support system is so key. I mean, Todd and I, we talk about a lot of things on the podcast, and like for a lot of instances, support is a word that I don't think we focus on nearly as much as we do, like specifically, but it all revolves around support, like support for a family, knowing they're not alone. I mean, I was just talking to a couple just recently, like, hey, do you have any support? Anybody to like watch your kids so you can go on a date night or anything like that? No, we don't have that kind of support, and stuff like that just makes me sad. And just thinking about the fact that, man, when people feel alone, and I was even, I'm not trying to ramble, but the other day I was watching this like TikTok on addiction and just talking about the reality of support that has to happen within addiction, that when there is support is introduced, like how radically much that changes the landscape of the individual that is going through the things they're going through, knowing they're not alone and they're not doing it. And so, when it comes to something like foster care and feeling that daunting pressure of surrounding a kid with love and making them feel safe and making them feel cared for, man, and knowing that you got somebody in your corner, like putting the gloves on and getting ready to box.
I cannot, I've never been in that situation. I have no idea what it is. So I'm not going to pretend to really, empathize with them. But I can come in and just sit with them. And, if they just need a listening ear, all of that type of support, even with addiction, it changes you spiritually, emotionally, even mentally, So that's one of the things I think the Lord opened up, especially during
COVID, we had the opportunity to be a food distribution center for people that couldn't leave their homes. And one of the things that the Lord brought to mind that we've been doing now since is this who's watching out for the watchmen. So we know that there's a lot of work still to do in this community in every realm, even those lanes that we're not even involved in or invested in as much maybe as others. But one of the things we do often at our Saturday serves, which is second Saturday, easy on-ramp, is care packages or some type of support for the people in the trenches. So foster families, kinship, like grandmas and grandpas.
The DSS workers.
DSS workers, but also the staff at Cornerstone or the teachers at an elementary school. And just trying to lean in and go, we see you and you matter. And that's not just helping them go, wow, people see me and I matter to them. But it's also, again, training up volunteers to say, pay attention to the people around you and the people in your community. And just like what you said, it's little things, but it can be a game changer for their hearts and for ours. And that's, again, our motivation is Jesus, and that's what he did. He saw people that felt like they were unseen. He sees us when we feel unseen. And so just trying to magnify that is huge. And it makes such a difference to just know that somebody sees you.
With some of the other stuff, so you got Save Kids, we've got transportation, we got food insecurity, and we got shelter stuff. What's some of the other organizations that we are working with?
So,
or maybe it's a bigger thing we're going after in regards to here's what we're doing with transportation, here's the big thing we're trying to solve, or here's the big thing we're trying to solve with food insecurity. We got to hear that with Safe Families. I think some of the other things would be interesting.
Oh, sure. Too. So our Safe and Healthy Kids, by and large, is there was a gap, and so we felt pressed that we could fill that gap until things kind of catch up. But with the other entities are places that are really doing great work. They just need a push forward. They need some encouragement and support as they do what they're doing very well. There's not so much of a gap. So like food insecurity, Fork Real Cafe, to Pay What You Can Cafe. They're doing incredible work. They're not just feeding people, they're training people up. So one of the dishwashers and sous chefs that we worked with a lot, I know there have been a few of them now that are pastry chefs in town because they earned skills. They were able to get their life to a place that they could look for a job. And so now we get to see them at restaurants in town when we go eat. So the goal is not just here's food for today. It's a
long-term
transformation.
approach.
Let's help you grow.
Can we talk about that for a second? I think it's out there. They're trying to raise money for a food truck now, which, man, that's a lot on the plate. Having a brick and mortar building,
literally,
and then it sounds crazy. It sounds awesome and exciting, and I think it will be. I think their ability to start where they started, and now have the brick and mortar, and then now moving into this continued space, and it's fun watching those different food trucks pop up, not just in town but across the nation. I have a friend, Scott Newton, who does Hope Food Truck, company, and they are working on food insecurity for kids, like in North Carolina. And so it's awesome to see things like that take place here in our city. And again, like you guys, you ladies champion things and try to bring people along with. And Rhonda does the same thing. And I love Dave and Rhonda, and just know that, man, if they continue to get the right people, the things that could be accomplished there. But just a little spotlight on them, being able to get a food truck and raising money for that could be really amazing. And praying for the right people to be in that position to help them out, because they can't do everything or they'll be done in like 2 days.
100%. And they've got what I love too is it's not just hey, we should do a food truck, let's do it. One of the things of note in this community is that most of our nonprofit leaders, like Rhonda, they've got a business plan, they've got all of these things, like they've put in a lot of work to make that happen. And I love that too, because I think if you're not part of that, you go, oh, they're doing a food truck now. Well, no, that's been like years of praying and preparing.
A lot of intentionality.
And it's just I'm so proud of them and nonprofits that just really are vested in where are we going, not just where are we. Because I think it's easy in the line of work that we do to get caught up on the emergencies because there are lots of them. But always saying, okay, but where are we going? And why are we going that way? And why are we doing it this way? So Fork Real is one of them. Feeding South Dakota has been kind of a staple, I think, too, because again, when we work with Safe and Healthy Kids, we're working through transportation and shelter and food insecurity. And so all of those places, those are the two main ones I would say for food insecurity. For transportation, it's Shift Garage, which actually started as a ministry at Fountain Springs, which is wild. But they're doing incredible things, getting people access to
its own nonprofit.
reliable transportation. It became its own 501c3, which again, just like Ron and Dave were leaders in the outreach ministry, it's been very humbling to see the Lord. He's just got bigger plans than I think we even can fully understand.
Yeah.
So Shift Garage, great idea, started as a life group, with a dream to be something, and now it's its own 501c3
and a location
in Sioux Falls
Yeah.
here to watch God just blow your mind with what He's got in store, and the people that will be reached with Jesus through a car that works. It's amazing, and they're even getting started. They've got all different kinds of pathways now to help people learn a trade and be able to have access to a vehicle that works.
Was like
budgeting
one of the
classes,
newest ones that they just
so many
started,
things.
so
And
really
again,
cool.
looking at the whole person and the whole situation, not just here's the Band-Aid, here's the fix, which sometimes somebody is in a position where that's all you can do in that moment. And then they move to the next space. But we're so proud of our partners because they are looking at the whole person and the whole situation. And then for shelter, we work with just about every place in town that is working with people that are unhoused, but Cornerstone and the Cornerstone family. So they have multiple entities within that organization. But Cornerstone Rescue Mission is, I would say, the place that we give the most attention to because it is the only shelter in town, overnight shelter, where anybody can stay. And they are our homeless population numbers have grown drastically, dramatically over the last few years. I think there are a lot of layers to that, and we are working hard to be part of those conversations and part of the long-term solutions to that. But right now, we're going to do everything we can to support them because it's the only place that's feeding and housing people overnight. So it's a big deal.
It's crazy how many things we're a part of and what we're doing, and to see people within our church take initiatives to start their own, and God doing that. To me, those are always incredible stories.
Yes.
And so that's where I want to finish this time, is we've talked so much about just locally and all in a lot of different realms, but as people are listening, you guys have seen it. You're in the trenches of this. Why is it so important for us as a church to be involved in the local aspect of it? It's that person sitting there going, okay, I know I should, but they're wrestling with, what do I do? All the, as you guys have seen it, what holds people back and what helps them fight that, overcome that?
That's a really good question.
I think probably people feel not equipped. That would hold them back. Scared. I don't have the means or the time or the skill. I don't know that I have the knowledge. I don't even know where to start. All of those things hold people back. I think when you bring a buddy along, I mean, it's just a partner. If it's one person or a small group, you know, they're much more likely to jump in and get involved. It's important because I think when you start serving even one little drop, your whole, I think your heart, I mean, it's just like the Grinch, your heart grows, you know, 3 sizes. You know, when you're little, your mom tells you it's better to give than to receive. I think it's transformational. You know, I think when you start serving, it goes to the next thing and then to the next thing. And then you're teaching, you know, your coworkers or your family about it. And that's what Jesus wants us to do. You know, he wants us to show people his love, and it just is a trickle effect.
It was so cool. On that note, I was having a conversation and somebody came to Wes this week, and the husband was like, guess what I'm doing next week? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I'm bringing my wife to Saturday Serve.
Nice.
And the look in his eye was like, she doesn't know what she's in for.
That's funny.
And then I looked at her and I was like, oh, she doesn't know what she's in for. Because she was like, yeah, this is just really difficult for me to think about making that step, because she likes her Saturdays and he has found a love and a passion for that. And he's like, I'm just excited that she's coming. And she's like, well, we'll see what happens.
There was
and
a couple.
It's going to be amazing. You're going to love it.
Yeah, there was a couple last month that kind of reversed. And man, they're both like, okay, what's next? Yeah, let's do it again. And that's pretty cool.
I think what we often find is when we're engaged in ministry, the Lord does a work through us, but the bigger work is in us. And we want to be deeper in our relationship with the Lord and closer to Him and learning and growing. And I think again, it's the application.
Yep.
We know so much. We are overcharged with information these days. It's the application of what we know to be true, which one I think is the hardest, because I think sometimes sitting in the information is like a life vest in the ocean when we're supposed to go swim in it. Don't, though, sharks. But that's just the picture I get, because what I see is the Lord start to unfold.
Yeah.
I also think when you live in a place, it's really easy to get your blinders on.
Yes.
So you get up, you go to work, you come home, and you don't even remember the drive.
Right.
Like you got home. And I think that where we live, and I could talk a lot about, there's a lot of places in Scripture that refer to this, and it would be like 2 whole episodes, and it would be amazing.
Give us a little snippet, though.
Well,
Let's go
so
for it.
in Babylon,
You went right to Babylon.
a group of people living
Okay.
there that were not supposed to be there.
Yeah, that's true.
And God said, make this place home. While you live here, make it your home. And I think we actually live.
Isn't that true for all Christians, though?
Right. And God's heart, what is shown there is make this place matter, because it matters to me and these people matter to me. You can talk about Nineveh and Jonah, but God's heart is already there. And so if because we're feeling like we're not going to be here that long, or maybe we're just too busy or whatever, when we make it personal, God moves in a way in our hearts and then in the lives of others that just opens so much. And I think when we're single, when we're dating, have a date when you're married to Saturday Serve. It's amazing. But there's something that happens in our hearts and lives when we just go do something. But I think when we make our community matter, it changes our posture, which makes everything better.
Absolutely.
I think you've said it many times. It's just, but God's never just put us in a community accidentally.
Yeah.
It's-
100%.
You're in the community for a reason, and I would even learn to take that individually. You're in your neighborhood for a reason.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And so what I think is beautiful with what we do with serving is it pushes us beyond just the, hey, look what we do together.
Yeah.
It's also going, hey, what are you doing at your home?
100%.
What are you doing within your neighbor? Because I go, we could do all these Saturday serves, we could do Love Your Neighbor, but it still will not be enough.
Yes.
One of the things we say a lot is we're instructed to love our neighbor, and our neighbor is everybody.
Yeah.
But how can you love your neyber if you don't know who they are? If you don't know their names.
Right.
We talk a lot about loving our neighbors. You got to know your neighbor.
Exactly.
I'm just really aggressive about knowing my neighbors.
Yeah.
Well, and I think
I will find out who they are.
I think
you've pushed me on that.
I lived here. We moved away about 13 years ago, and I vividly remember David talking about their missionaries that coming to Rapid City, and both of you, just really pushing. You need to see where you live and make that matter. And starting with the Love Rapid City Week, you know, back then, and since then we have moved. I don't know, 10 different times, and every time we move, it's all right. How can we get plugged in?
Yes.
What are the needs in our community? And we've taught that to our kids, and they're now, becoming young adults. And it's so awesome to see just what one little sermon maybe you have started has changed, maybe are gone to the next generation. Yeah. And so I think we are sending the right message, and I think we are making disciples by doing this.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, we appreciate the conversation. We're going to continue it. We'll have
we need
two.
to. It's awesome.
I know. Like we just sit in this moment. We just stay. Anyway,
Should we sing before we go?
no, we don't. We don't
We'll
make a
let you.
practice of that.
You'll
So
just sing us out.
when we've
okay?
stopped recording, you can sing your heart's content and knock yourself out. So no, but we're looking forward to continuing this conversation. Thanks so much for just starting and kicking this off, and appreciate your ladies' hearts for the things that God is putting in front of you and how He's using you. So that's awesome. So we'll see you next time, and look forward to that.